Ropp Star Gang, what up, what up? Good afternoon, and welcome to the Ropp Star Report. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. It's your host, as always, Clay Ropp. It's Thursday, man. One more step to Friday. I'm ready for it. I don't know about you guys, but I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. We're going to be talking about Bryce Young today. Today is just going to be an open mic session to just talk about Bryce Young, because I think we need to make a lot of things clear. Or at least I feel like there needs to be a lot of things clear after last season and moving on into this season, right? So we're going to be discussing a lot of that. Before we get into today's channel or today's topic, make sure you pound the like button, hit that subscribe. That's the best way you can show your support. Feel free to get in the comment section. Love to hear your thoughts, whether you're on Twitter or YouTube. Feel free to get in the comment section anytime. I'm always answering people's questions or comments. And I do the best I can, especially when we have a lot of people in here. Yesterday was the day 2 mandatory minicamp. We discussed most of the news of that yesterday. If you missed out on that, go check it out. All my lives are replayable. So I appreciate everyone joining. And so let's get right into it. First off, let me pull up. Let me see something here. Trying to find what I wanted to pull up here. Okay, where's Bryce? There he is. Well, that was the next gen stat. We might have to we'll use this and we'll use PFF instead. What's up, Sideburn? Appreciate you joining, man. All right, let's get in here real quick. I'm gonna use this instead. Marcos Cash, what's up, man? Appreciate you joining. And we got a poll question up, so you guys make sure you get into that poll question. Love to hear your thoughts. Hold on one second here. Having some technical difficulties here. Trying to pull up his Bryce Young's stats from last year. There we go. Perfect. I'd rather use why is PFF being so crazy? Give me a second here. Here, I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. And sound off in the comments as we're going through this. You can give me all your thoughts and how you feel with on how you feel with with Bryce Young. There we go. What's up, Conbra? I appreciate you joining, man. We're getting it started here. Sorry. Okay. All right. I got this pulled up now. That's better. Perfect. Okay. Move up a little bit. Actually, you know what? Screw it. We'll go back to where I had it like this. No, like that. That's better. All right. So I got some people in the chat. Everybody's already in the chat. So let's get into it, because what I really want to dive into is that last year. Let's recap last year. Okay. Let's recap last year. Okay. With everything that happened last year. Okay. Okay. Because last year was an absolute catastrophe with everything that I felt like everything last year, everything that went wrong or everything that could go wrong went wrong last year, right? Like let's start off from the top. We're going to start from the top of the food chain all the way down to the bottom. Let's talk about David Tepper. Okay. Right. Let's talk about David Tepper. David Tepper, that he's been this self-proclaimed savior, right? He plunged the franchise into straight chaos, catastrophe ever since he's gotten here, right? He fires Matt Rule of October 2022. His quest for the ideal head coach led him to this difficult path of egos, power struggles, ultimately firing another coach, right? And this hedge fund tycoon who amassed this wealth through calculated risk, claimed he learned from his previous mistakes. However, his grand plan crumbled when he anointed Frank Wright as the chosen one, right? And that decision would soon echo the tremendous collapse of the Panthers, right? So the problem is that there's this whole thing about with the David Tepper meddling in football operations, right? Ever since he's got here, right? He has struggled to stay out of the football operations until recently. Now, we're talking about from last year to this, what's going on to this year. All right, moving on to this year. Okay. So it started from David Tepper taking over in 2018. Massive ego ultimately has put us in the situation we're in. After firing coaching staff, or firing a head coach to another head coach, so on and so forth, meddling football operations, whether that's getting coaches to snitch on other coaches, or whether it's telling them what plays to run, or whether it's basically telling the football guys how to run a football team. Right. So it started there. So David Tepper meddling football operations, right? Then you had Scott Fitter come in here, a incompetent GM. Contracts are terrible. Couldn't draft to save his life. And then wouldn't re-sign free agents, right? The ones that are the key guys, right? So incompetent. Then you have Matt Rule. Then you had Frank Wright, or you had Matt Rule. Then you had, I guess you could say, you had who took over after Matt Rule? Why am I having such a mind blank? Oh my gosh. Who basically had our best season, and he did that in half the season in 12 games. Why am I'm having such a mind blank? The defensive coordinator. The guy who's the 49ers defensive coordinator, right? Yeah, I know. Well, he's not anymore, Mets. They fired him. Steve Wilkes, right. Steve Wilkes took you 7-10 in 12 games as a head coach, and you chose to go after Frank Wright, who literally a month after of being fired, you hired him. So that guy got barely any downtime. And then you're going to basically you hired him to tell him what he's going to do. You told him who's his quarterback going to be. And Frank Wright obviously took that as, did not take it well, right? I mean, the guy, every time he stepped at the podium, didn't seem to want to be here. There was no energy in the room. Like I said, it was like the guy was like Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh, man. Just no energy whatsoever, right? Wouldn't change the play calling up for Bryce. Wouldn't change the offensive scheme up for Bryce. You went from offensive coordinator to back to yourself, and the play calling was just so predictable. It was ridiculous, right? Um, so on and so forth, right? Then we've got the Hunger Games. You got coaches snitching on Frank Wright. It was just a complete mess. So then we go into what was the offensive line, right? The offensive line was absolutely atrocious last year, right? 62 sacks. But part of those sacks were some of Bryce's fault, I will say. There is a certain number out of that 62 that were Bryce's fault, but it's very minimal. All right. A lot of people blamed it on Bradley Bozeman last year, and it really wasn't Bradley Bozeman. It was the pressure was coming between the left guard and the right guard. Right. You had Austin Corbett's out. He comes back, plays 4 games, tears his MCL and the same knee towards ACL. That's you had Chandler Zavala as a rookie coming in. You had to get Gabe Jackson off the couch to come in and fill the other voids there on the offensive line. Oh no, Drock, we're going to relive it today because I want to be clear on my message today once I get into the whole point of this title of this whole thing. All right. Wide receivers not getting open. We had 2 of the worst wide receivers last year of open separation rate. DJ Chark was number 10. Number 2 on that list was Jonathan Mingo. Jonathan Mingo only got, when he was the first read route, he only got open 25% of the time. And now they've done all that, right? So we've gone through all that, right? We've gone through meddling owner, incompetent GM, head coach after head coach, Hunger Games, play calling, different coordinators, so on and so forth. So the 2023 season, initially, we came into that with full promise, and it spiraled into a complete nightmare. Now you have this new offensive-minded head coach within, I don't know if I would say an all-stars coaching staff, because I don't know if we do. What I will say is this coaching staff is all on the same page, which I appreciate, because I don't think the Avengers we had last year, we're all on the same page. And I think that was very clear. Bryce Young is our highly talented number 1 draft pick quarterback. So expectations are supposed to be high. However, we finished with that 2-15 record, plagued by ineffectual offense. That's the way I would describe it. Frank Wright was that head coach, was dismissed after 11 games, and then continuing a pattern of quick exits under David Tepper, right? So now, the Panthers offense, despite its heavy investment in coaching, was abysmal. They ranked at or near the bottom in both standard and advanced metrics. Players consistently underperformed with missed assignments and mental errors repeatedly. The offensive line was a significant liability, frequently failing to protect Young, creating chaotic pockets, and that was whenever he attempted to pass. Even the run game was mirrored by mistakes. Miles Sanders, with the 4th largest salary cap hit among running backs in 2024, was relegated behind Chuba Hubbard as that season went on. Sanders struggled in the pass protection, and you saw him playing time diminish significantly, featuring only 7 snaps in the season finale. The receiving corps was, again, equally problematic. It was consistently consistently mainly of journeymen and unproven players. DJ Chark's a journeyman. Adam Thielen, was a Minnesota guy his whole life. And then Jonathan Mingo was an unproven rookie, right? So Thielen at 33 became that primary target. And if you go look at his stats last year, he had over 130 plus targets. I think it's actually like 137, if I'm not mistaken. That's the most since he's been in a season for him since 2018. So the pass catchers suffered from poor spacing and lack of separation, averaging only 4.1 yards after the catch, the lowest in the NFL and significantly behind the league leading San Francisco 49ers. Could you imagine Bryce Young in this scenario? Thrust into a chaotic and underperforming offense at the number one pick. This status carries immense expectation as teams expect that top pick to define that franchise current era, especially when that player is a quarterback, right? So, despite all that was being said there, the turmoil around him, right? Young's rookie season offered some glimpses of potential, right? His statistics, I mean, again, statistics are statistics, okay? Numbers don't lie. They were poor. 34th among qualifying quarterbacks in success rate and last in adjusting net yards per pass attempt. You can go look it up on Next Gen Stats. That's where the best you can see most of his stats from. So these numbers placed him in an undesirable list of quarterbacks who struggle significantly in their rookie years, such as Blaine Gabbert and Josh Rosen, for example. Yet statistics alone, I don't think that people need to realize like these statistics here don't really tell the full story, right? Despite the dire circumstances that Young showed flashes of positive play, he demonstrated accuracy and understanding of the offense, ability to make plays under pressure. He often managed protections himself, and when given a clean pocket, he delivered precise passes, particularly over the middle of the field. But that was the thing. That was the thing. Bryce Young last year, right? He has the ability to create plays outside that structure. Right? Now, I'm not going to go into the reminiscence of Steph Curry because I hate comparing football players to basketball players. I think it's just stupid, right? His best moments, though, came when they were operating quickly, utilizing space, both in that the formation and in the pocket. The Panthers coaches tried to leverage quick game concepts, which I think that they should have done more of because it mitigates the offensive line's weakness and it simplifies things for Bryce Young and it gets the ball out quicker. And it keeps the offense moving downfield. That's what quick game's all about. It's a bunch of hitch routes, quick slants, so on and so forth, right? That's what quick game is. Like, quick game is what they needed to be running for the longest time. Because quick game, it's easy completions. It's a pass pro relief kind of ordeal, right? If you ever heard that phrase before. All right. It's your quarterback's footwork is three-step drops or it's under gun. It's a one-step drop. Pure quick game, not RPO now, not RPO, because I think some people get the misconception of quick game and RPO. Most of the time a quick game, which I want to explain this to you before. I've explained this multiple times. There's a three-step drop back under center, and then there's that one-step drop back under gun. Quick game, there's a lot of how the quick game reads work is it's a clean, easy completion. It's quick. Most of the time, the reads that in quick game, they're half-field reads. They're not like down the field throws or whatever. It's not like a Hail Mary, right? Or straight up the seam, right? Why QBs like the quick game? It's because it's easy. And I think that's what should have been done for the longest time because it simplifies things and it should have been done. You should do that with your rookie quarterbacks. It's easy. It's hitch routes, it's fades routes, it's slants routes. It's easier for your offensive line to block and it gets completions and it keeps the offense moving on the field and it moves it towards the end zone. That's why quick game is so important. And that's why I want them. That's why I was begging for it last year because they relied heavily on they relied heavily on quick passes, and sometimes there is a downsides to that. I will say because defenses began to anticipate these plays with no constant threat of big gains. They crowd the line of scrimmage, and then the Panthers receivers that struggle to break tackles, further limiting the offensive explosiveness, and that's what happens sometimes. But Young's tendency to opt for the safer, shorter routes also hampered this offense a little bit because he ranked third in the NFL for check down passes, right? And Young's I don't think it's a lack of arm strength because a lot of people want to say, well, his arm strength lacks. It doesn't. If you go watch the passes that he threw, he was overthrowing each and every one of them. So it's the deep ball accuracy that we need to understand. The size, a lot of people, when it comes to his size, I feel like, are a little bit it's an overstated statement. Let's be honest, right? Making him difficult to challenge defenses because of his size. Drew Brees, for example, there's guys that have been good that were Bryce Young size. His habit of moving backward in the pocket instead of stepping up, that was his issue. It compounded the protection issues that led to the high sack rate. That's what I'm saying. When Bryce Young took too much step backs, that's when it hindered the offensive line. And that's when the pressures came in. That's when his pressures came in because he took too many steps back. Brett's like, get this broski bear. He needs to be more understanding more often too. Yeah, and again, despite these challenges, he did showcase his pocket maneuverability to deliver accurate throws, right? Under pressure. What I'm getting at is that, and I'm going to finish explaining what I'm getting at here in a second. What I'm getting at here is that it takes more than the supporting cast around Bryce Young for this offense to be successful. Because even though that was an issue, he occasionally showed his pocket maneuverability and he was the ability to deliver accurate throws under pressure. But there was his inconsistency in this area that the Panthers' offensive line performance made it difficult for him to develop that skill further. So it's a crucial aspect of Young's game in his intelligence, awareness, or of his limitations. It helps him avoid unnecessary risk. It also leads to excessive caution. That's the issue. Because Young also led the NFL in throwaways, indicating that his preference for avoiding negative plays at all costs but it was also it's a misconception because you're avoiding the negative plays, but you're also missing maybe a potential opportunity to make a big play, right? Considering the whole chaos of last year. Young was reluctant to push that ball down the field. To me, is somewhat understandable because he faced the 5th most dropbacks against cover one defenses last year. But yet he struggled with a low completion percentage and a success rate in those situations. So to me, just saying that highlights the need for reliable pass catchers who can win on one-on-one matchups, right? So yes, Bryce Young last year had his flaws that hopefully Canales can fix some of those flaws, right? Which thankfully he is starting from the ground up. He is starting from the basics. And sometimes that's what it in everyday life, whether it's your job or whatever you're doing, sometimes it's good to just go back to the basics. I mean, and I'm glad that he's going back to his footwork because that was one of my issues with Bryce last year is because he was too much on his tippy toes. And when he was too much on his tippy toes and he wasn't planting his feet and throwing, that's when you saw the erratic throws, right? I think that the path to success here for Bryce Young involves more than just his individual performance, right? I will say, it's improved teammates as well, such as you getting Deontay Johnson, Xavier Leggett. That should help, right? We're already seeing Bryce in mandatory minicamp having great connection with Johnson. But right now, Young, to justify his number one overall selection, he and Dave Canales, they have to elevate his play in 2024 and beyond. Young has the potential to, I think, to become a smart, efficient quarterback with some creative flair, kind of like it's akin to Alex Smith. He reminds me of an Alex Smith, honestly, from what I've seen. I don't think you can compare him to Drew Brees, not just yet. But to truly move the needle, he needs to push the boundaries and take more risk. He needs to be able to balance his intelligence with the willingness to make game-changing plays. That's just my take on it. I mean, and there's more to that. There's more to what happened last year. Let's see what's going on in the chat. Let's see what's going on in the chat. So this guy, yeah, Steve Wilkes. Bryce, so Jordan comes in and says Bryce went number one for a reason. That's all I'm going to say. Last year was historically bad. Let's not relive that shit, Clay. Well, when it comes to talk about Bryce Young, you have to talk about last year. Rock. I mean, we can't not talk about Bryce Young without talking about what happened last year. Matt Chatter, what's up, man? Is Barrett going to be a good linebacker? I mean, we'll see. I think right now, I don't think so. I think at best, he's going to be a rotational piece starting out and probably a special teams guy. Matt Chatter. Coaching matters more in pro football than any other sports, in my opinion. I think coaching matters in every sport. The issue is in these pro sports, you have too many players playing GM, coach, and like I said, playing. So that's the issue. Word for today is separation, for sure. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people Cyburn is not surprising. You know what I mean? It's not like, I don't come on here and say that the last, I've been preaching this. Like, I wouldn't come on here and lie about the separation issues. Last year was terrible. The separation issues were terrible. It's a proven fact. It's a proven fact. You know what I mean? Rock, I definitely think he needs to be under center, but I could see, we saw a lot of plays when he rolled out and made some great throws. I think you need to have a good mix in there. I think Rock. I want him to be under center more, but I think that it comes down to him. If I keep him under center, I need to see a one step drop and throw. Right? I know not every play is going to be like that, but I think that for Bryce Young to be successful, when I was explaining to you what quick game is, I think that that's the most successful way for this kid to play to be successful in the NFL. Now, again, that might change due to the fact that we might have a competent offensive line this year due to adding in Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt. I don't know, Jordan. I can't go that far saying if he's used correctly, he's a top 10. He does need to show improvement. For sure. I think that that's what we all want for this team this year is improvement. Not just for Bryce Young, but the whole team in general. Wide receivers creating separation, the offensive line open up run lengths and protecting your quarterback, for example. I think another thing that we want to see improvement on, and that's just the whole team, is health. We've had so many injuries through the years. It's hurt us, right? Um, you make a great point, Cyber, in there on that last part. Use no excuses, play with no mercy, have no doubt when we win. Um, yeah, I mentioned those guys. He did, Jordan. He did, but who's to say that he's going to do the same here? Right? Who's to say that he's going to do the same here? We can't predict that. It's good to notate that. And I think, and I definitely like what I'm hearing from Canales. You're right. He's selling me on it. That's for sure. I'm drinking the juice, but I'm not willing to go head first, dive into this head first and say, well, this team's gonna Canales is gonna elevate Bryce, and we're gonna be, we're gonna win 10 games. Like I did that last year. I'm not doing it again this year. I'm staying realistic. I think the expectations are high for Bryce Young for sure. But this whole, I think as a team as a whole, we have to keep our expectations at a low because in the end, if you look at it like this, when it comes to our expectations for this team, at least if I keep my expectations low and I say the 6 to 7 wins, which I've said, yeah, at least I'm not disappointed if it's worse because I'm not surprised if it could be if it's the same last year if it's worse but if it's better then I'm happy, or if I'm right on then great, but I'd rather keep my expectations low than be disappointed at the end of the year. You know what I mean? But again, there's so many things, there's so many positives, there's so many negatives. Um, when it comes to debating Bryce Young, right? We'll know what we have by week 6. We'll see. Rock Two Flavors comes in and says this year about 8 wins or 8 wins, 10 or better next year. I'm going 6 or 7 wins this year. I'm sticking to that. Rocky Two Flavors. I think again, when it comes to Bryce Young, there's positives, there's negatives, and then there's what needs to improve, right? Because I mean, he ranked. The problem is he ranked at the bottom of the NFL in almost every category at his position. Now, again, I'm not solely putting when we're having this discussion right now, I'm not solely putting all of that on Bryce Young. I think that it's all on other aspects of last year. Okay, firing your meddling owner. We went through the list, right? But all those things play a factor. So I'm not blaming it all on Bryce. The supporting cast around him was also beneficial or was part of that. I was told yesterday on another podcast that I could not be 50-50 on Bryce. I'm jumping on the BY9 train. And if it crashes and burns well, I'll just rise from the ashes. That's who I am. Who told you yesterday that you couldn't be 50-50 on Bryce? And I would like an explanation as to why you can't be 50-50 on him. Because here's another crazy fact about last year. And I can state all the negative facts. I mean, Young's stats last year from the first 2 weeks of the season were nearly identical to the past 9 games, to his past 9 games. You don't have to say who it was, but what was the explanation, Marcos, to the reason why you can't be 50-50 on Bryce Young? But, another thing is the statistics show last year, if you go look at the offensive line, is it the offensive line wasn't doing enough in pass protection. Particularly, a lot of people want to blame Bradley Bozeman, but it wasn't. Even though he ranked among the worst in the league with 8 sacks allowed, but it wasn't him. Right? It was the left and the right guard. Most of the pressures, percentage-wise, came from the left and the right guard position. But it's crazy that Bryce was sacked 62 times, the second most in the NFL, but the average time before a pass he had was 2.89 seconds. So it's interesting now that Dave Canales now says to get the ball out before 2.7 seconds. It's interesting how that's panning out now. I mean, you want to hear something crazy? Carolina's pass block win rate last year was 52%. It's 25th in the NFL. Young was also had the lowest percentage of throws, 38.1% to open targets with 3+ yards of separation out of 34 quarterbacks with at least 150 passing attempts. And again, like I said, the pass attempt rate is like 5.4 yards per pass attempt, the second lowest average by any quarterback since Blaine Gabbert in 2011. And the QBR on play action passes for Bryce Young was 31.3, third lowest behind Howell, Mac Jones of last year. But, I'm just telling you those facts. I'm not saying that's all of his. That's not all of his. I'm giving you some facts on that. But the thing that I do love about Bryce Young is that how resilient he is. He's a tough He's a tough kid, right? Um, he endured a number of sacks, um, on, with a lot of pressure on him. Who's been under a lot of scrutiny since he's gotten here. Um, but I will say this: one thing I do love about Bryce Young is his ability to extend plays. His ability to improvise, extend plays. That's what I like. That was one of the bright spots he had last year. His agility. Um, I thought that was when we saw a lot of that. He's very mature for himself. Um, he seems to handle success and criticism gracefully and responsibly, because there's been multiple times he stepped up that podium and said it's his fault. Even when it's not his fault, he's done that. But I mean, the road ahead is uncertain, right? There's a lot of questions about whether he can overcome these struggles that he had last year and fulfill his promise as that top draft pick. But I think he's got to work on the downfield accuracy. He's got to work on the footwork. And I want to see him be able to elevate his playmakers, but I think he's also got to have playmakers to help him out as well. And I think like Deontay Johnson, and Xavier Legette, you bringing in these other guys, Brooks and Sanders. And when I mean Sanders, I'm talking about Jadavion Sanders. Those kinds of guys can definitely benefit your quarterback. I kind of compare the Trevor Lawrence situation to Bryce a lot, because if you think about it, under Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence was atrocious. But that was a bunch of turmoil under for Trevor Lawrence. That was a lot of turmoil around in that Jacksonville front office and locker room and coaching staff with Urban Meyer, you know. So it's almost kind of like the same situation. My hope is that Canales can be the Doug Peterson that how Doug Peterson was to Trevor Lawrence. Hopefully Canales can be the same way to Young. That's what we're kind of hoping and harping on, right? Let's get in the comments real quick. So Marcos was saying to that comment, if Bryce succeeds, then you can say you support him, but if he fails, then you can say you didn't. Basically, I mean, I kind of disagree with that, because if you're not, I don't feel like you can be all in or all out. I feel like you have the right to have your skepticism on him, right? Like, I think with Bryce Young, you have the right to have your skepticism of him. Not to say that I think we all have our skepticism of him, you know, but it's just like when I pointed out those negative stats, but I've got positive stats about him. I saw a lot of he did have a lot of success in the play action though. He had completed 63% of his passes in the play action. He had the most yards out of last year in play action, which was over 580 yards, which is 7.3 yards per attempt. And then he had 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a 95.1 PR passer rating. And he had 5 carries for 39 yards, 7.8 yards per carry, with 3 first downs on the ground as well out of play action. So, there is positives to last year. I mean, there's positives to every negative situation. I mean, everybody says that Bryce Young is small, right? We've seen shorter quarterbacks in the NFL kill it. I mean, every time he goes deep, though, I will say when his 3 deep throws, I mean, it was like he was aiming to the fans. So it ain't about the strength, it's about him hitting the target, right? But I mean, the dude was always moonwalking because he got defenders breathing down his neck last year. I mean, and sure he got tippy toeing and started planting those feet. Blaming him for the QB runs. I mean, that ain't on him. You gotta, he got to make that make sense. So I think that I think that you know Bryce has his flaws. Hopefully, Canales can work him out, but I just think that there's some positives, there's some negatives to everything when it comes to Bryce Young. Um, and I'm sorry, like I can when it what to Marcos Cash's statement here saying that another podcaster says if you're 50-50, then it's if Bryce Young succeeds, then you can say you supported him. If he fails, then you can say you didn't. So basically, so it's like, no, you could just say, well, I was 50-50 on him. It didn't work out. If it's 50-50 on him, it worked. Like, I mean, you could just say that. It's not like you could say, well, you were right. No. You said you were 50-50 on him. So you were 50-50. I think 50-50 is an option. But some people think that you either have to be 1 foot. It's either you're 1 foot in or 1 foot out, and I can get that too. I mean, I get it. I do get it, but at the same time, I still feel like you can be 50-50, but don't come out and say, "Well, I was right." And you don't have to come out and say you were wrong. It's just that you weren't sure. I don't know. I don't know, but either with us or against you're either with us or against us. The Bryce train already lost lost breaks, so let's ride a giant. I mean, here's the thing. I'm a full supporter. I'll say that. Yeah, I mean, so I would agree with the poll question. The poll question of the day is obviously when you look at this, the poll question of the day is how do you think Bryce Young will perform in 2024? I think that Jadarius is spot on with this. I think that solid starter should be who he is this season because I think if anything less, yeah, it's concerning. It's definitely concerning if it's anything less. I can open up. I might open up the stream to let some people come in if you'd like to. If y'all really want to get your thoughts in. If you really really want to get your thoughts in, I feel you could. I feel you couldn't grade him properly in that situation last season. The season I feel you can. This season I feel you can. If you don't see any improvement, then he's heading into the bust territory. It should be less excuses this season. I mean, I can't agree more. I mean, I've been harping that as well on here, saying that um I was going to do it today. I don't know about tomorrow. Tomorrow's a different day. Cyburn. Tomorrow's a different day. But we might open up the stream tomorrow. Maybe we'll open it up today. But yeah, I mean, I feel like this year you can properly grade this guy because you can tell that this whole coaching staff is all on the same page. Now, again, people will say, well, what about injuries? Well, injuries happen. Injuries happen. Now, I'm not saying to Bryce Young, but I'm just saying to the offensive line, wide receivers, like running backs, tight ends. The injuries happen. It's about how you step up in those tough situations. In the NFL, injuries happen all the time. But so I think If I don't see any improvement, then yeah, he's definitely heading into the bust territory. And we could be looking at the Panthers at the number 1 or number 2 pick next year, taking Carson Beck or Ewers out of Texas, or who knows? Maybe they do take Shador, right? Maybe Drew Allard, or maybe Dart comes out at an Ole Miss and just blows up the NCAA, and they take him. I mean, I don't know what veteran they would end up trying to go after, right? Um, so there's definitely no excuses for Bryce Young this year. It's hard to it all comes down to Dave Canales, this offense, this coaching staff, and the supporting cast around Bryce. But it also comes down to it's not just those factors, though. That's what I want people to realize, and that was my message today. It comes down to Bryce Young with his footwork, right? And I named off all those things, the deep ball accuracy, right? This path that to success just involves more, but it does involve more than his individual performance as well. Oh, so it's both sides. Rock Jones comes in and says, offense, no excuses. Defense, no mercy. And special teams, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, the defense is going to be interesting. I'm glad that we have a vocal leader back there again in Shaq Thompson. I'm glad to see him back. So it's good to see him back. I'm interested to see how this defense works out. I'm very interested to see how this defense works out. I think Advaro is going to have it all panned out. I think there's going to be a lot of good competition coming up to watch in the training camp. This mandatory mini camps, it is what it is. I'm ready for training camp because that's when we're going to get to see what we kind of have. Like, I don't think we'll know what this team truly has until like between week 3 and week 6 of the season. But I do think going forward, I'm interested to see who's going to be is DJ Wonnum and Clowney going to be those guys? Like, are they going to step up? Like, the offensive line. Like, I think we need to be keen in on every position because there's so many new faces. There's so many, this whole new coaching staff. Training camp's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of competition. So I'm looking forward to that, especially in the rooms like the running back room, the tight end, the wide receiver room. That's going to be interesting. I'm hoping to see someone in the corner room step up and kind of try to fill the shoes of Dante Jackson, because I don't know if Jameson or Charles, I want to see one of those guys, whether it's Deshaun Jameson or DiCaprio Boodle, or even if it's Dane Jackson, or even if it is Charles Smith-Wade, to really become that second guy behind JC Horn, right? I need a Batman and Robin in that corner room, right? JC Horn's Batman. I need someone to be his Robin on the other side. I'm not too worried about the linebacker room between Josie Joel and Shaq. I think that's kind of set there. A lot of people, even Marcos Cash, is saying DJ Johnson's a breakout candidate. I would love to see DJ Johnson step up, right? His knee injury is not an issue. It came out in reports today that his knee issue should be ready to go by training camp. I want to see what another thing is I need Shy Tuttle to step up this year. That's one of the guys that I'm keeping an eye on, that I'm harping on this year, that I'm going to be keeping a close eye on. Is he going to step up this year at that nose tackle position? That's another guy I need to see, right? When it comes to the offensive line, I need to see Icky. I'm interested to see how Austin Corbett holds his own there at the center position. They'll be interesting to see how Damian Lewis and, of course, how good Robert Hunt is. Those guys. The offensive line is going to be. It's not really a competition thing. I really just want to see Icky improve from last year, and then, of course, I just want to see if Austin Corbett can can really transition to the center position. And then in the running back room, that's the competition that's going to be interesting, and the wide receivers and the tight ends. So training camp is going to be fun, man. That's what I'm looking forward to. Michael Reap says definitely going to be nasty. I didn't even think this team would get this offense looking serviceable in our situation, let alone a promising one. So I will be hard on Bryce. Yeah. Defense worries me more than offense. It's crazy, Jadarius. I'm not worried about the defense. I'm more worried about the offense. I'm more worried about the offense this upcoming season than I am the defense. I think because of Gio Evero, I have so much faith in him as a defensive coordinator. We've seen him take practice squad players and step up, right? And he's had those guys playing at a pretty damn good level. Let me see what this Rock Jones says that. And can we get a pass rush by committee? It would be interesting to see how they rotate guys in and out. I mean, you got Barno. Barno is still here. Marcos. Yeah. I mean, Barno. I mean, we're looking at this roster from PFF. So from a defensive standpoint, let's go to the Carolina Panthers. Here we go. So we go to the defensive to the Panthers. And let's go to edge defenders. So DJ Johnson, we still got guys like Cam Gill. I never even heard of him. Drafted. Where did he play at last year? Wagner Seahawks. Where did he view player page? Cam Gill. 1 sack, 5 assisted. Where did he play at last year? Never heard of Cam Gill. Oh. So this guy was a undrafted free agent, but he played for Tampa Bay. Okay. You learn something new about your team every day. So Cam Gill. Hold on, I'm going to represent this. All right, Kavlon Chasen. Kenny Dyson Jr. Never heard of him. DJ Wanham, Jadeveon Clowney, 18th. All right. So here's the thing that when we look at the edge defenders, can DJ Johnson, Clowney, Wanham, most concerning position group, Ian? Definitely the corner room for me. I'm very concerned with the corner room. Like you have basically DJ Johnson. Looks like Leota had some snaps last year. Cam Gill had some snaps last year with Tampa Bay. But to me, it's going to be between Johnson, Clowney, DJ Wanham, Chasen, and Barno. If they did a rotation, it's probably going to be DJ Johnson, Kavon Chasen rotating in and out with Jadeveon Clowney and DJ Wanham. Barno's got the speed. He just doesn't have the power to get outside of these or the inside of these these tackles. He just doesn't. He's got the speed to get on the outside, but if he gets stuck, he can't maneuver him. He just doesn't have the power. But to Ian Allison's question here, most concerning position group to me is definitely the corner room. Your Royal, because J.C. Horn's is your number one corner. The problem is he's had an injury history. So you have to think about, is he going to stay healthy through a full season? Because he only played 6 games last year or 8 games, something like that. I don't even know if it was that many. I think it might have only been 4. I can't remember. But then Troy Hill's your nickel guy, even though Charles Smith-Wade says that he could be that guy. Dane Jackson has been at best a third corner, right? So, Willie Drew, I like him a lot, out of Virginia State, an undrafted free agent. He's like the Jalen Coker of that corner room. That's the way I'd like to compare Willie Drew. So, I mean, the Caprio Boodle is cheeks. Lamar Jackson, I don't know what he's going to do. Deshaun Jameson's not even on this list. Is he still even on this roster? Or did they move him to a different position? Oh, they got it. Why is he listed as safety? Because he played some corner last year. Yeah, but I mean, if you're looking at the corner position, I mean, we better hope that Willie Drew, Charles Smith-Wade can step up and be that Robin for J.C. Horn. I think it's going to be between or Dane Jackson. We got to hope that Dane can be that Robin to J.C. Horn, but I did not realize that Deshaun Jameson was a safety. But I thought, well, let's see if we put it. So if we go to ESPN and we go to the lineup on there, let's go over there. I just want to see if they put the roster differently. No, see on ESPN they've got him listed as a corner, Deshaun Jameson. So that's weird. That's weird. Yeah, but to the position group I'm most worried about is definitely the corner. Is definitely the corner position. So hopefully the offense is at least competent and manageable, and the defense is a turnover squad. I think that if we did a rankings, if our offense last year could be, if our offense, I'm not saying last year, if our offense this year can be Marcos Cash, I'm probably about to hop off here soon, so keep pounding, brother. If our offense, if our offense can be even top 15 and our defense and the defense can be what it was last year, we'll be fine. There's no doubt in my mind that you could have a winning record with that. Thaddeus comes in and says, with Deontay Johnson as Bryce first read, he will have his first option open a lot. If Jadeveon Sanders, Jonathan Brooks break out early as a safety net in the past game, Bryce will be way better. It's a good. Definitely agree with the first read. If Jadavion Sanders or Brooks break out early, yeah, it just depends on Brooks' ACL injury. I want to see. I don't want to rush Jonathan Brooks back, guys. I really don't. I want, like, as much as I want to see him on the field, but he's a rookie. I'd rather take my time with him. Jadavion Sanders, yeah, definitely could be a breakout guy early. I think he's going to end up being the tight end one anyways. Um, I think him and Trimble might even be going back and forth for that position. But I think Bryce has no excuse to not be better, though, Thaddeus. That's the thing. It comes down to not just him individually, but it comes down to the supporting cast around him. I compare this whole thing. I really, Bryce has his flaws. I mentioned that earlier. But it doesn't help when you didn't last year when he didn't have a supporting cast. So, but he also has his individual flaws that he has to work on to improve on. Going MVP or Pro Bowl. Landon, that's a huge statement, my friend. Deontay being the safety value, definitely a positive here. Keeps him happy, keeps us moving the chains, opens it up for everyone else. Yeah, and I think a lot of people need to realize that the run game is going to be obviously is going to be the focal point of this offense. That is going to be the focal point of this offense. Is going to be running the ball. Canales has mentioned that multiple times now at this point. I'd rather keep John, as much as I want to see Jonathan Brooks on the field, and I think all of you do. I'd rather him be fully healthy before he comes back. But I think we can get the job done. I think Chuba can step up, and I think Sanders can't get any worse. So the only way for Miles Sanders is up. So, but I think they can hold down the fort until he gets back. So, well, I appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Make sure you pound that like button, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Follow me on all my social media. Link is in my the description of this live stream. Join the Discord if you haven't already. It's free. It's a good way to stay up to date with the live streams and of course my boy Zach Rappaport's always in there. That's what we call him, Zach Rappaport. He's always in the Discord posting up daily news of the Carolina Panthers and takes and topics. So it keeps you up to date, and it notifies you every time someone posts, and it notifies you every time I'm live or I post. So it's a good way to stay communicated and with me. So, and I'm always in there too as well, chatting it up with guys. So appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Also become a member today. That always helps support the channel. Guys, I appreciate y'all. Have a good rest of your day. We'll definitely get some more content out to you. We'll be live. I'll be live tomorrow. So appreciate everyone joining the live stream. Y'all guys, y'all know what to do. Keep pounding. Peace.